you're alive.
Well, hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Staying Well session for October 18th. 2022 on how to help your child and teen succeed academically. I'm Maria. I'll be talking today. I'd also like to acknowledge the support, both technically, Al as well, but really one of the people who really spearheaded this initiative is Christy Wake, a coordinator. I'd like to also acknowledge the support of Tracy Eagle as well. It was in terms of content, also to emotional support and frankly technical support. That is my kryptonite, technology. And also to Petula Locken, who is the director. Again, it's guidance and support that she's provided. I'd also like to take this opportunity. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the support of the superintendent, Janesse Moffat, in definitely the Staying Well initiative. So one of the ways we can definitely help children and teens. I mean, that opening picture of the graduates' happy, shiny faces, that really is the end goal of the educational journey. The number one way we can help kids as parents is, if we're worried, if we have concerns, is definitely reach out to the teacher. Teachers like you may have 2 kids at home, but they also have worked, some of them, with hundreds and hundreds of kids. And there's some real talent in this division. They have a lot of tools in their toolkit to help kids not only succeed academically, but have an enjoyable time while doing so. There's a lot of research on it that the best outcome for kids is when home and school work together, when there is that kind of parent and school partnership, not only in terms of academic achievement, but engagement and attendance as well. One of the things we know about COVID is definitely, with the hybrid, the remote, the various iterations of the delivery of educational services, that if we were supporting our own children, we really appreciated the difficulty and the challenges associated with teaching of kids. And if you ever doubt that, then do volunteer, as I have done on a couple of occasions, to support a field trip with a bunch of kindergarten kids. That really illustrates the challenges the teachers can face, as well as the enjoyable experiences. There were a lot of laughs. But one of the things we know that there's a lot of buzz around it, both in terms of social media and the printed press as well, about COVID learning loss. Our division is really kind of focusing on COVID learning recovery. It's a paradigm shift. It is really more positive, and instead of problem admiration, kind of generates more solutions going forward. But this too is where you can help your child. Definitely practicing the mental math, practicing the reading skills, even practicing organizational skills. And organizational skills are really one of the key skills involved in academic success going forward. So these are all ways we can help for the kids. Another impact of COVID, definitely. Another impact of COVID, sorry, my director just passed me a note here. Another impact of COVID is really, there was a change, and now there's more project-based learning. There are smaller tests that are worth just 20% as opposed to 50% going forward, and yet it plays a critical role in the assessment process. And as you go up the grade ladder and beyond, it is something where having those study skills and those test-taking skills, let's say you want to retool and become a real estate agent, you have to have those basic skills in place. And right now is a great time to practice them with your child going forward. So the note that was passed to me, should you have any questions, please put them in the chat throughout. We have somebody online ready to answer your questions going forward. Now, in addition to all those challenges we talked about related to COVID, another challenge is if your child is anywhere from 6 to 18, you are dealing with a brain still under construction. It is still developing in key areas, and one of the areas that really takes a real long time to develop is known as executive function, and that's a set of skills, a set of abilities that, as you can see illustrated in that chart from Harvard School of Medicine, showing that it takes almost to the age of 25 for those skills to be fully developed. And that's because the brain area that is involved in that, mediates that, makes it possible, is still developing, and that's called the prefrontal cortex, located right behind your eyes. So it is a collection of skills, things like planning and organization, attention, initiation, getting started on that book report, for example. And all of those, to make it even more challenging, have different developmental trajectories. So some are going to be at adult level at age 13. Some, like organization, takes a little bit longer. And so it's like puberty. Not everybody reaches that at the same time. But we're going to talk about ways to support your child or support your team. Now, we know that kids with ADHD, with dyslexia, with autism, that area, those executive functioning skills are a little less well developed compared to kids the exact same age. Again, there are a lot of ways we can help kids going forward. Some kids with anxiety, it may be a temporary area. They might have a little bit of difficulty with attention, but again, there's a lot of supports and strategies we can put in place going forward. For some kids, they may not meet criteria for ADHD, they may not meet criteria for autism or for dyslexia or for anxiety. Their reading, writing, and math skills, unlike a kid with dyslexia, may be at grade level or higher, but they may have trouble with organization, they may have trouble with task initiation, and monitoring and planning and prioritizing. Here again, there's one of the books that we've given out or will be giving out. They will be delivered shortly. Smart but Scattered, it's an awesome book about executive functioning skills, how you can support that both for kids for 4 to age 13, and there's another book for teens. So for organizational skills, it may be just a question of, yeah, they're just not at adult levels yet, but we can definitely support them going forward. So we'll be focusing on just a couple of the key executive functions. One is working memory. That is like the brain's post-it note. It is involved in keeping things online long enough to complete a task. If they have a weak working memory, they may have trouble remembering directions, even though you've repeated it several times. But it is also really critical to academic skills, like if, for example, writing. You have to keep things on line long enough to complete a task. So it's spelling, capitalization, who my audience is, all of that requires working memory. If you ever leave, and I have done this, leave one bag of shopping in the shopping cart thinking you're finished and drive off, that's a lapse in working memory. Another area that's really key is planning and prioritizing. That becomes more and more important in the upper elementary grades, but then all throughout school and beyond, including university and college and frankly life. Often executive functioning skills are called skills not only for learning, but for life. Kids with a weakness in this area may not know which parts of a project are most important. They also may have difficulty with task initiation. And if that is weak, they may freeze up because they have no idea where to begin. All of these strategies we'll be talking about to address task initiation, like chunking, for example, to-do lists, are all ways to help kids going forward, but they're also help kids beyond the educational system. Organization, kids with weak organization skills, they're the kids who will lose their cell phone and on their homework and their backpack. I always am amazed, kind of like around late spring, early summer, they'll have a table out in the hallways in most schools about stuff that kids have forgotten. And there's always that one boot, and how did they get home? But that is, and you see that early, middle, and senior years, and I know that kids come over. We definitely, I've had a lot of kids over throughout our stay in Winnipeg, and it always amazes me what they leave behind. Including multiple sets of swim trunks. So learning executive functioning skill is for everyone. It's just not for the struggling learners. Every child and even adults can improve their ability to stay organized, to focus on tasks, and use time wisely. For many of these things, of course, there's an app for that. But there's also, too, equally as good news, there's a hack for that. And some of the hacks just involve a paper and pen and pencil, and sometimes put a little glitter on it. So we'll be talking about organization, task and initiation, planning, time management, as well as memory, study skills, and test taking. All of these are critical academic skills, are very important, strongly correlated with academic achievement, whether it's at early, middle, senior years, university, or college, and beyond that. And we'll also, too, just to remind you that each of these areas, from memory to time management, planning, and task initiation and organization, have different developmental trajectories. So there might be variability. One child of yours may, be at adult levels much sooner than another child, but that's just the way it is. Okay, so organization is a skill that has to be learned. For some kids, right from the womb, you go into their room and it is organized. Their closets are immaculate, but other kids, maybe not so much. So it is a skill that it benefits from practice, benefits from just simple little tweaks, such as color-coded binders for different subjects. Taking a page out of the calendar and acting as a day planner so they can see where the next project is due, maybe when that book report is due, or when they have to bring their, sneakers to gym, something like that. So those are little tweaks that don't require the buying of an app or anything fancy. They can just be just readily assembled by the materials at hand. One of the things we know that many of these things are organization, planning, and time management. If you think about some of the projects these kids have to do within a certain time, submit the project. There are a lot of things we can do, from to-do lists. If you target one, such as a to-do list, it actually will benefit planning and time management as well. Of course, there's an app for that, but some of them are just quite simple. By even just making sure having a regular routine with regards to organization, checking on whether or not they have completed their homework. And another one is that project is done, but they haven't handed it in. That's a true story. Is surprisingly how many times that has happened. So, to-do lists. I personally love to-do lists. Sometimes it's a I didn't get to it list, but the thing about a to-do list, one, it helps you prioritize, but there is something inherently reinforcing about crossing stuff off the list. I have sometimes put stuff on the list that wasn't on the list just so I could cross it off. But it really does reduce anxiety for kids. So, there are some kids, man, they just get overwhelmed. And by having that plan of action, having a plan of action is a stress reducer right from the get-go. You can go on to Google Images or Pinterest and to-do lists for various age groups, and there's all kinds of bright and shiny things that you can print off. Sometimes it's just the old-fashioned way, as illustrated here, to do. Put your name on your paper. There we go. Read the story and so on. It doesn't have to be something fancy. So I love this daily organization checklist. I've worked with several parents who've laminated it and put it on the back door, on the fridge, and on the front door. It just makes it easier. One, they can check it off. You want to, foster that independence as going forward. But here, I know my homework assignments. I have all materials that I need to do to maybe do that book report. I've organized my backpack and I've turned in my completed homework. But you doesn't even have to do that. You could just have a plan, do, finish, book report due, get, first one, get book. I'm always surprised last minute, some kids will just kind of last minute try to get it done, and to read the book as well. So now often, and when there is a big project, sometimes kids can get overwhelmed, and you can have a little bit of an explosion as illustrated by that mushroom cloud, or you get the opposite where it's kind of shut down in tears, which may be followed by a mushroom cloud going following thereafter. And really, I recommend the use of what I like to call a divide and conquer strategy. And really, it's reduced to a soundbite. It's just breaking things into smaller parts. And why that is so beneficial, frankly, for teens and kids and even adults. It just is less overwhelming for a child or a teen to see it as small pieces. They move from I can't do it to I can do it. And it is really kind of it facilitates success, but it is a strategy that will stand them in good stead as they go up the grade ladder, as they're in university or in their workforce. Being able to kind of take that strategy and stand back and break it into smaller pieces is a way to set you up for success. And here's something so simple. Get ready, do, and done. So it might be get ready. What do I need? Pencil, a book, and paper. What are the steps to do? Get book, that may take you 5 minutes. Read book, hopefully it take you a little bit longer. Make notes, estimated time, and so on and so on. And what will it look like? A completed picture of a book report, because there is definitely a more emphasis on that project-based learning. And that's something that will also stand them in good stead, whether they're going to university or they're going to Polytechnique. Now, often too, again, the power of reaching out to a classroom teacher is all these things, we call them graphic organizers. It really kind of breaks it down into parts, but it provides visuals to do so. So one of the things, my book report, you can just see how simple and less daunting it is for kids. I would love to have had that during my educational career. So you put the name, you put the rating of the book, character setting, you can actually draw something. So we call this chunking, and it really helps to get things done more quickly and frankly with less stress. Another one is this, it's called a hamburger graphic organizer. You ask any teacher, they've been using this for a while. I was in a classroom observing a kid and supporting a teacher. And happened to be sitting beside this kid. The teacher asked everyone to write a paragraph. She handed this hamburger graphic organizer, and that kid, he went from a fear kind of response, that paragraph seemed a difficult thing, to something so easy. The top one, the top of the bun is the introductory sentence, the in between is the meat, and the last one is the closing sentence. Suddenly he had a eureka moment, and what seemed more challenging became far much more simple, because it was broken down into smaller parts, but also too, it showed you the value of using visuals going forward. As they go up the grade ladder, definitely you move from kind of narrative writing, I think, to more of a expository writing. So now it's like opinion and marshaling a fact. facts. So definitely here, again, reach out to the teacher, but frankly, Pinterest, teacher paid teachers, and we can provide them as well, all kinds of graphic organizers. Here is Oreo. So O is the opinion, give your opinion about the book. The reason R stands for reason, why, and example, provide a concrete example, and opinion, you just restate your opinion. That is the fundamental basis of every paragraph, whether that kid, when they go up the grade ladder, have to write an essay, even if it's 2 pages, that will stand them in good stead to just produce that paragraph going forward. Now, right now, definitely, when there is a homework, and sometimes, that homework is only homework because they didn't get it done in class, and so it follows them home. As they go up the grade ladder, definitely there is a little bit more homework, but I've had kids where they're doing, a spelling test in early years. Now, is it a source of frustration? Well, you can see here, majority of parents endorse that item, 63%. It is a source of frustration and sometimes stress and conflict in the home, but we're going to talk about ways to circumvent that, and a good model is for each chronological age year, then 1 minute of practice. So if there's 6 minutes of practice. But you ask people, did they think it was helpful? The vast majority of parents do. One of the things it does is that, practice that discipline, something that's going to become more and more important as they get older, practicing the study skills that they would need if they want to progress from a pension analyst to a pension consultant. And if anything, the last couple of years have taught us the need to pivot, to retool and retool quickly, to crack open that manual and study the relevant sections about, how to deliver services online, for example. So here, look at that little checklist. You can see how easy it is. But one of the things, when you see it arrayed like that, when you see it, the visual, it just breaks it down into chunky little pieces, seems less daunting. And you can do it all kinds of sample homework checklists. And of course, there is definitely an app for that. It's amazing just what is available to support kids going forward. That sometimes is just revolutionary, just for me anyways. So you can take a photo of any homework question and it will provide you with an answer. There's all kinds of learn how to solve math problems. YouTube has hundreds and hundreds of examples, some of the really skilled math teachers showing how to do math problems. You get answers, explanations, and even more going forward. Now, this is something, helping with homework doesn't mean you're doing the homework. I mean, if your kid's in pre-calc, good luck on that one. I was good in math, but maybe those skills are a little rusty. If you don't use them, you lose them. So you may not know enough about a subject. I mean, I couldn't, French would elude me. But, you can help in a different way. You help them nonetheless by showing them that you're interested. So just asking that question, again, there's research showing on that, helping them get organized. And sometimes by helping them get organized, you broke it down into much smaller pieces. It's just less stressful, less conflict and stress at home. But after these kids have gone 2.5 years through COVID, maybe it's a really good way to help them going forward. Sometimes it's providing a place. I mean, sometimes, God invented islands for a reason, because you can have them do the homework, keep an eye on them, but also to cook dinner, maybe answer the phone, and maybe put a load of laundry in. And monitoring their work to see if they complete it. What I would recommend when they put the completed project in the backpack, maybe touch base to make sure they hand it in to the teacher, and praising their efforts, catch them being good, as I always say. And sometimes too, for some kids, it doesn't hurt to give maybe a little reward. Maybe it's, what I'll make you a dessert. What's your favorite dessert? Maybe don't ask that big a question. Give them a choice between, a pudding cup or Jello cup. Otherwise, you might get a request for baked Alaska. But sometimes just your verbal praise is enough to, you may get an eye roll and a hair flip, but they hear you nevertheless. So we're going to talk about attention, and we're going to talk about working memory. That too is an executive function skill in one of those books. In both of those books, there's ways to support that going forward. So this just illustrates that attention and working memory are not going to be at adult levels. They're not going to approach adult levels for attention, not to around age 15. They're not going to have that sustained attentional capacity of an adult till age 15. Working memory, some kids, it's age 13, they'll reach that, but some kids will be age 16. So it's always something to bear in mind that maybe it is just that kind of variability, just like in height. I've seen kids grow 6 inches. Suddenly that little guy in grade 9 is that big guy in grade 10. Now, rather than nagging, pay attention. I love these things. They're kind of little things. You definitely hear them used in early years, but I think it benefits all grades. Hocus pocus. Let's focus. I use that with in meetings with colleagues, because sometimes you have to get them to focus. I've used that with the men in my life. I've used that with the dogs in my life. I don't expect an answer, but you haven't lived until you've said all set, and a teenager in the back on the phone absent-mindedly answers "you bet," and that's much easier to do than to say pay attention, and it's something that's really kind of fun and engaging to do. So what we know, strategies for learners with attention issues, sometimes, breaking it down, giving that one step at a time. And then, when they come with their backpack, you give them another step thereafter. But it's just a way to ensure success, and you're not nagging them all the time, even though in your heart of hearts you'll want to. Definitely visuals help. But one of the things I would like to point out too is that enhancing and practicing executive functioning skills with children from infancy to adolescence, that is an awesome resource prepared by Harvard University, more accurately the Center for the Developing Child. It's a free resource, and what it has is all kinds of activities to enhance organization. Sometimes you got to make it fun. All kinds of activities to enhance attention and to enhance a working memory. Everything from chess to Sudoku to physical exercise. A lot of research showing the benefits of that, and doing it outside really kind of helps the development of these key cognitive areas of ability. So one of the things, we'll talk a little bit about memorization techniques. So that's some of the things we're going to talk too about practice, the benefits of practice. Benefits of practice is it just makes it more automatic. It's less cumbersome, less laborious. So some of the memorization techniques, such as the use of mnemonics, have been around for about 2,000 years, and we'll talk a little bit how it's really beneficial in terms of math, for example. Some of the other areas, that visualization, drawing a picture about a key concept. You can see that too on the graphic organizers. Why that works, because the long-term memory is associative. And what that means, you pair verbal with visual, then you have 2 routes to retrieving that information going forward. There's also just rehearsal, reciting things. We've talked about chunking. And we know I've talked about the benefits of exercise strategies to work to build working memory is just something simple. Definitely, we're going to talk about practicing mental math facts. It does make it does make the working memory stronger and better going forward. Also, too, benefits the foundational skill of doing math, and definitely create a song We know that song often evokes multiple types of memory. I mean, there's a song that comes on, suddenly I'm in the car on the way to the cottage. It's June. I've got a dog who's barking since too long. I can literally see the beautiful June night. So it evokes more than one thing. So if your kid, needs to memorize something or needs to have a tool in their study skill toolkit, definitely set it to music. So one of the mnemonics here is this one here. I mean, sometimes you forget the order of operations to solve for X here, but please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parenthesis first, exponent, then multiplication, division, then addition, then subtraction. But you'll notice how it maps onto that sentence that makes sense by making it meaningful, by linking it to that particular sentence components. It really makes it more memorable, because that, for the kid, as your child goes up the grade ladder, will be something that they will need going forward. Now, I've talked a lot about practice, how important it is, and definitely it really helps because there's a concept called cognitive load. When things are practiced, they're become automatic. I remember when I was learning to drive, I was conscious of everything. Oh my God. Now I drive home, I don't even know. I work on something else like shopping list. I mean, you just have more resources left over. So practicing those basic math skills gives you more resources to solve for X. Practicing those definitely partitioning and making things into smaller pieces so it's easier to do. The use of graphic organizers really helps you using that going forward, makes it more automatic so you do have time left over to spend on other things. In here, so we talked a little bit about bright but scattered. That's one of the things we're handing out, Thriving with ADHD, a workbook for kids, all kinds of activities. And some of them, your child may not have ADHD, but maybe they need a little help with organization, or they need a little help with emotional regulation. The strategies would be the same whether or not they met criteria for ADHD or not. Study skills. You can see here by the pencil the foundation for lifelong learning. We've talked about, suddenly the need to retool. You can be an adult and now you have to retool your skill set. So having that skills, that ability to review, to manage your time, to have that study skill muscle in fit form really kind of benefits us going forward. One of the things we know really is that time management piece, and we talked a little bit about that. Definitely having regular times and definitely kind of daily study, like 5 minutes reading, for example, for early years. Doesn't have to be a long time. We talked about the power of visuals. The thing about visuals, whether it's a diagram or a chart, you take a really complex text, you reduce it. I've had kids talk about the impact of pesticides on multiple forms of life in the agricultural sector. The drawing was incredible, showing just how it kind of radiates outwards, the impact. It was really quite impressive, and it really is showed the deeper level of processing that occurred, because that kid created a picture about the impact of pesticide. So it really is about studying smarter, not harder. Again, those are books that we've handed out, kind of address that. I think there's one specifically for high school, just talking about all kinds of little kind of hacks to help kids study, because that's a skill set as they definitely go into university or Red River Community Polytechnique or the Manitoba Institute of Trade and Technology, whatever they do. But even beyond that, sometimes you do have to retool. So we talked a lot about using visuals, mnemonic devices, and definitely a strategy called elaboration. And that's just maybe linking the stuff that you have to memorize to your own personal life, seeing some of the challenges, some of these characters in in a work of fiction, how that may have meaning for your own life. Or sometimes it is just seeing it in a real life context, taking math and applying it to something that's math-based, such as cooking. So one of the books here, we have Visual Secrets for School Success. It really is about the power of the use of visuals. Some of these strategies are essential, really essential for some kids, maybe for a kid with dyslexia or for a kid with autism, but they benefit all kids, and frankly, they benefit adults as well. So things like the visuals, and definitely there's all kinds of examples in this book going forward. But something like first and then, having that visual schedule. If you have little challenges in the morning, rather than saying it repeatedly, just have a visual setting up. That's something too that definitely the school can help you with. We can help you with as well. So when it comes to study skills, a lot of their like senior years, they have a homework club. So that can really help. Sometimes it isn't just doing homework. Sometimes it's helping to complete work, or sometimes it's just maybe a math problem that's tricky, or maybe it is a big project that's due. Maybe they have to write an essay or something. There is help available for that. And sometimes it's helping your kid to ask for help is a big one. But one of the things that really helps sometimes is that kind of peer support. During kind of the height of COVID, there was a couple of kids at high schools created a study buddy group. They did it all online, and they reached out to other students to help with the reading, writing, and math going forward. But there is that power that can really help. Another thing is flashcards. Oh, I love flashcards. You can use them for everything. Something as simple as math facts, but too as word definitions as well. And sometimes too, the thing about a study buddy is you can reach out to them without getting into a fight with your mom or dad. So test taking, some general tips. I would say if I could do this and scream at the top of my lung so everyone can, don't cram the night before. It's just going to make you more stressed out. As the stress is going to prevent downloading of information going forward. But it turns out that when you sleep at night, that's when the memories are consolidated and hardwired into long-term memory. So that means it's going to be there at the time of assessment. So definitely, just is a little strategy going forward, but I can't imagine how stressed and now you're exhausted and sleep deprived trying to take the test the next day. Now, there's all kinds of strategies for test taking, and they vary as opposed to whether it's multiple choice or whether it's short answer or whether it's a longer version. But one of the key ones is really read it twice and underline keywords. I had a kid I worked with, everything, in-depth knowledge, just a lot of facts, beautifully organized, but it didn't answer the essay question and didn't answer the short essay question. So they were surprised by their mark, but then again, just read it twice and underline keywords. One of the strategies too is if it's multiple choice, definitely cross out the wrong answers forward. Now, even in early years when there are tests, one of the big ones is definitely the dictate or the spelling test. I've had kids who've, mom and dad practiced with the student. Kid was spelling up a storm. And then they came to the test and not as good because that's the thing, it illustrates the importance of context. If the test is writing the answer down, then you have to practice writing the answer down. So here, if it's an oral test where the child just has to spell out loud, then you practice it oral for an oral examination. If it's a written test, then definitely practice it for written test. That's a phenomenon called context-dependent learning, and there's a lot of research illustrating the power of that. The other thing too is managing test anxiety. And some of the ways you can do that really is just prepare, study. Definitely, you can see it in some of those classrooms where they're talking too much about it. Outside or in the class room before the test begins, it just makes everybody anxious. So just focus on what you have to do. One of the big things too is that breathing exercises. The most effective form of breathing exercise now is to take 2 short breaths, inhale 2 short times and then exhale. That disrupts the kind of the escalation of the stress response, and that's just a different way of doing it, but actually it is a more effective way of doing it. So now I'm going to just take a couple of minutes, keep calm, it's activity time, and my executive director will be, well, Director Locken, and not that kind of director, a different type of director, is taking over. So how could you help your child or teen's academic or study skills? How could you help your child or teen's academic or study skills, Director Locken? She is saying graphic organizers, and oh, she's trying to read the answers as they go in. We're going to talk about apps for that too. Can you name one other way you can help your child or teen, Director Locken? She's nodding her head up and down. There is an app for that, and she would really benefit, and even I benefit from my visual planner, my day planner. I would be lost without it going forward. Okay. So we'll wait for the executive director to come back, but we're going to move forward because we can return to that because there is at the end going forward. Now we're going to talk more about reading, writing, and arithmetic specifically. One of these things we know that there are reading is okay, that there is reading is really kind of neurologically quite a complex thing going forward. And it is involved in 5 areas, everything from decoding, so that's word attack skills, fluency and comprehension and vocabulary. And here to practice, practice, practice. That is something to definitely prevents the summer slide. And we know that reading makes kids even smarter, such as, helps increases their vocabulary. And if you think about it, the more words you know, it'll be easier to comprehend what you've read. So it's a little bit of a ratcheting up effect going forward. Some other tips to improve a child's reading skills is really kind of asking them questions about books and teach your child to identify letters in natural settings. How many things do you see that begin with the letter B? Or how many animals can you name in a minute? And definitely those rhyming games are really helpful for those early years, those acquisition of those phonological awareness skills, the acquisition of those kind of decoding or word attack skills. As they go up the grade ladder, there's all kinds of things that kind of really facilitate active reading, kind of active engagement in the material. Something as simple as making a connection to your own life, and another one is identifying the main idea. Sometimes that is the most overwhelming piece for kids. The overwhelming challenge is identifying the main idea. But there are all kinds of graphic organizers for that too, that can help your child and maybe get that project done a little bit more quickly. I wish I had had things like this growing up, because it definitely would have made it a little less stressful. One of the things I really like to encourage is that active reading, that kind of active engagement in the material here. Again, there's all kinds of graphic organizers to help your kid process that information more deeply, whether it's science thing or just getting better at reading skills. The more automatic the 5 components of reading are, the better it is. Just makes life a little bit more enjoyable. But if you look at across all the subjects, reading is involved in even in math, but science all the way up through the grade ladder. And it is a key fundamental skill. I mean, sometimes you have to retool and you have to read that manual. Now, we've also given out learning to read for kids with dyslexia. Your kid doesn't have to be dyslexic to benefit from this book. It's all kinds of fun and engaging activity to kind of enhance spelling skills, to kind of all kinds of rhyming activities, ways to take a root word like at and put other letters in front of it to see how you can create different words just from that kind of fundamental component. Because we know that word recognition, we often call it sight words. Really, if you know a lot of sight words, of and the, but are classic examples of sight words, you have all these resources left over to attack maybe condensation or continuation or meiosis, mitosis. So you can now devote your resources to decoding that, and really the ultimate goal is extracting meaning from that sentence and doing it fluently going forward. So there's all kinds of activities you can do, just even in the car as you're dropping them off at school. I've had parents playing all kinds of word activity. The word of the week is another one. I've had a 10-year-old use the word supercilious. I had to kind of look it up. It means arrogant. And let me tell you, she said it very arrogantly to me. So there's all kinds of things. Reading Rock, it's an awesome website. Again, it's a lot of advice for parents to enhance the reading skills. And of course, there is an app for that. But there too is all kinds of graphic organizers to help kids maybe break down that project they're finding a little insurmountable, but it is skills. If they can break that project down through the use of graphic organizers, they can also learn to apply and create their own graphic organizers going forward. It really too helps with reading comprehension. Writing is one of the most cognitively complex things we can do. If you think about all the components of writing that are involved, and yet it is something that you have to do all the way up through the grade ladder and maybe in your job too. And for some kids, they're just so focused on letter formation, it gets in the way of idea formation, and idea formation is what people get paid for. So again, sometimes it is just a simple little workaround, such as the use of technology. Even now, Word has a feature where you can just literally talk and it'll start transcribing your words into text as well. But there's also a divisional technology expert who would be able to help you let you know what apps are available, but so too the resource teacher or guidance counselor assigned to your schools as well. So again, these are all the executive functions involved in writing. That you can see just how complex it is. But the thing about the practice, it just makes it more fluid. Definitely using those graphic organizers, maybe for some kids, the technology piece is really helpful. But I cannot stress enough, it really is the fun aspect. Here there's all kinds of rolling rainbow spelling. But you can just take common household objects and just kind of create these fun little activities. Here, word fun is spelled out. You could do, with something as simple as Legos going forward. Again, these are kind of activities too that we can provide information on, but some of them are already embedded in some of those books we're giving out. Some kids just need that little kind of plan, like a little acronym here, and just shows you just how complex the writing is. Those are all the features of good writing. But sometimes here, the P is pay attention to the prompt. What is the question? List the main ideas, add supporting information, and number your ideas. You see how it maps onto an acronym. One of the things we know about acronym is it really kind of helps with memorization, but also too, if you memorize it, you'll be able to use it again at a later time. Call the cops here, capitalization, overall appearance, is it a paragraph, for example? Punctuation and the last one letter is spelling. That's something too, is you can definitely see that in the report card comment section, where your child or someone else's child doesn't always check to see whether or not they've made sure that punctuation and capitalization is correct, that their spelling is, and something as simple as getting used to that acronym is a way to make sure that when they hand that finished product in, it is free of errors going forward. Now, one of the big ones too, I find is, thinking about something to write, and definitely brainstorming is a really good way of doing that. It can be a fun and engaging activity. One of the things that I've included writers overcome challenges. I've had kids be able to, they shut down because they've ran out of paper. And the simple solution here is just to ask for paper. So here, there literally is an app for that going forward, and we talked about some of them. Again, this will be uploaded to the portal. So if we miss some things, they'll be here available for preview, like the list of the apps to help for kids for spelling. Math, composed of 4 fundamental abilities, such as, the necessary computational skills, like reading. The more automatic some of these fundamental elements, you have a lot more resources left over for things like problem solving. And one of the things here, there's all kinds of worksheets, but some of the simplest hacks to help your kid with math is graph paper. It just kind of helps to align things. Definitely drawing pictures of word problems. There's that kind of deeper processing, that elaboration, that working with it. And definitely for some kids, rather than you working with them to memorize a times table, is that setting aside computer time, because there are fun and engaging apps where they do get that practice. They do make those skills definitely more automatic. I've included this one here, just got plan, solve, and check. It's just a way to break things down. What I like about it is it really kind of asks, is it a reasonable answer? And that's that kind of fundamental math skill. Is it a reasonable answer? Sometimes it's a good way to support a kid or teen to make sure that they have checked their math work, because that answer would be literally impossible. But there's all kinds of apps for that. There's also YouTube. Some of the best mathematical educators are on YouTube showing how to solve those math problems in a fun and engaging way. So there's all kinds of resources available that are just literally, in some sense, almost free. Now, there are times that your support, the teacher's support, is just not enough. And there's a lot of acronyms in the educational industry. This is called an ALP. It's called an academic learning plan. And it's just a way to provide more support for kids. Your child may not be on the spectrum, may not be having a dyslexia or ADHD, but just maybe needs some support with regards to organization or time management. This is where the ALP would come in to support your kid going forward. Definitely, it's initiated by the teacher. The outcomes aren't changed. It's just a way that we all want kids to experience this, where it's not this mountain that they have to scale. They just have to stand on their tippy toes. You want them to grow, but they can experience success, because after the last couple of years, these kids definitely have deserved it. Now, if you think your child needs more help, student services, so that's both at the school, that's your guidance counselor, your resource teacher, and your principal, and there is PAL in principal, reach out. They're educational expert, child developmental experts. They can provide support and ideas and additional support going forward. Now, you've done your job, your kid is off maybe to university, maybe to Red River College. Now it's called Polytechnique. I think that's just a cool word. And Manitoba Institute of Trades and Technology. And definitely here too, and there are ways to support your child here. Your child may be on the spectrum. Maybe their computer is where their talents lie, but maybe organization is a challenge. Maybe working with others. Even if you go into computer science, there are group projects. For kids with dyslexia, maybe have problem with their reading and their writing. Or kids with ADHD. A very good friend of mine is a prof at the university, severe ADHD. She had to work through 6 times as hard as a kid without ADHD in university just to get her work done. And for some kids, it is anxiety is a challenge going forward. Well, we're here to help. Definitely ESS in collaboration with student services. One of the things that universities and polytechniques, community college, all require is some form of evidence. So for sometimes we can help write a letter. Sometimes it's summarizing previous assessments. We append the ALP to that, and we submit it to accessibility services. That's like student services at the school level, but it is accessibility services at Red River, accessibility services at any university in Canada, and frankly, in the world. Sometimes it's making sure your kid will have technology. There's be no more diorama building, but it will be maybe writing the exam in a different area. Using technology, being able to record lectures. There's also support around organization, and many of the apps that we use to help kids with the writing process are apps that the university uses as well too. If your child has, there's also all kinds of scholarships for kids with ADHD and dyslexia or autism. Again, hit the disabilityawards.ca. There's lots and lots of support there. We can also guide you in the process. All of these organizations listed here have all kinds of resources for kids with dyslexia, with a learning disability, or Asperger's with autism. I've included this resources here. Again, there's more apps, but here, just all kinds of apps, something as simple. Many of these apps are free. Many of these apps are actually being used by the division going forward. We're living in interesting times where kids will probably be talking in their computer rather than writing their essay by hand in long form going forward. So, you got any questions? Please, this is the time. But if you want to ask a question that maybe is about your child specifically, then please reach out to Christy Wake or Tracy Eagle. There's the Staying Well email, ess at sjasd.ca. There's also a number to call. So if you have any questions, please reach out to the coordinators. I would like to also take this opportunity to mention that on April 11th, yeah, I did put the right year, 2023. To be talking about anxiety and worry as strategies and interventions. So if there are any questions, we'd love to answer them. Okay, so that's perfect. So thank you very much for joining us. If you have questions about your child, just like some more information about the supports that you can request, or just something, question you want to ask about your child specifically, then please reach out. We'd love to hear from you. You've got questions, we've got answers. Thank you.